Namaste. Satyavan has chosen, and all the rest is a natural, inevitable consequence. Satyavan has surrendered himself to the Divine Mother as an act of love. It requires tremendous courage, faith, and courage to surrender. The human mind doesn't let it happen easily because always we have in our surrender lot of bargain which is hidden inside, lot of ifs and buts, mind's questionings, doubts, the vital's need for proofs and wanting different things. But for Satyavan, the only aspiration is, if we may call it an aspiration, is to discover the gold link between this earth and the divine self. This is what he says when he is face to face with the Divine Mother. Now you have come and all will surely change. He knows somehow this is a knowledge that comes from faith. This is not a knowledge that comes by any amount of intellectual ratiocinations or by any kind of analysis. He says that I've been looking for something, and when you have come, this is what I have found. And I'll just quickly read these few lines, and then we will come to book 11. How Satyavan responds to Savitri. Okay. This is on page 402. Earth's ease of simple things can satisfy. If thy glance can dwell content on earthly soil, and this celestial summary of delight, thy golden body, dally with fatigue, oppressing with its grace a terrain, while the frail, sweet passing taste of earthly food delays thee, and the torrent's leaping wine descend. Let thy journey cease, come down to us. So this is such a beautiful, this act of surrender. It is not that we have to give something big. We have to give ourselves. And that's what Satyavan says, that this is what I have. The torrent sleeping wine, this water which I can offer to you, which is running from the pure stream. And some simple fruits as food. And my father's hermitage, which is a thatched roof. And if this can satisfy you, you will have to bear a little bit of fatigue traveling to the hut and maybe sitting with me for a while. If this is acceptable to you, come, descend. And the Divine Mother accepts whatever is given to her as an act of love. Here Satyavan has given himself. And the Divine Mother accepts so beautifully on page 408. Descend, O happiness, with thy moon gold feet. Enrich earth's floors upon whose sleep we lie. O my bright beauty's princess Savitri, by my delight and thy own joy compelled, enter my life, thy chamber and thy shrine. So surrender is an act of love and joy. That's how we see in the Gita. That yoga is not done with a despondent heart. Oh, I have no choice, I am giving myself. And all the time, mind filled with doubts. An act of joy and love. And with that joy and love, he offers himself and says, will you make my being, my heart, your chamber and shrine? If you are willing, come and descend. So this is how Satyavan has done, and this is what seals our destiny. One may do all kinds of tapasya and yoga and yet nurture ego inside. It's such a terrible thing. It garbs itself even in the ego of the sadhak, spiritual ego, which is far more dangerous because nobody is there to tell you. Unless you are leading a grahast life, then it's good. Somebody will tell you, look here, don't try to behave. So, this can be so dangerous. I am a sadhak, I am a yogi. Sri Aurobindo says in one of his letters, to be a sadhak, to be a yogi, a superman, a supramental being is not the goal of the yoga, because if you are impelled by these things, that means you are turning to yoga to self-aggrandize. Superman, to become a superman. No. The goal is to live in the divine consciousness, to live by the divine consciousness, to live for the divine consciousness. Is it even possible if one is not impelled by a complete surrender and self-giving of oneself? So this is the momentous act that Satyavan has done. And then she takes charge. So these are the two things which seal our destiny. All else one may have done or not done. But one reaches this high point where one gives oneself. And when one does that, and the Divine Mother accepts, as the Mother says in one of her writings, if you have given yourself to the Divine and the Divine has said yes, both things are there, because the Divine knows. It's not that He will say no, but He knows what is behind the surrender. Maybe ambition. Oh, now I'll become a great Swami, a sadhak, a guru. So Divine will say, okay. So, but the Divine knows Himself in the heart of the seeker. So she says that if you have given yourself to the Divine and the Divine has said yes, then the whole world cannot keep you away from Him. This is what happens. Here it's not just the world, but death, inconscient, grip of ignorance. And she fights the battle even when Satyavan is not aware and wins him back. So what does it mean? Because people often say, but death is still there. So in Savitri itself, Sri Aurobindo says, death, stay, be there, still a while, be still my instrument. Now what does it mean? Here freedom from death means the hard grip of ignorance that comes in the way of our journey. This freedom from ignorance. First thing is to remove this main roadblock, the grip of inconscience. That becomes loosened, weakened. And then once the soul turns, so what it means is that in times that we are entering or have entered today, it will be much more easier, practical application, for human beings to realize the soul, to realize the divine. Because the kind of grip it used to have, and that's what at least I see, I'm sure many of us see. In children and the youngsters who are coming today are so different. They spontaneously feel this kind of connect. That hard grip is gone of the inconscient and the ignorance. Does it mean that now nobody will die? No, it doesn't mean that. So death has still a role to fulfill. The body is still in the grip of death. And therefore, Satyavan cannot just immediately re-enter into the body and continue his life. That is something which death cannot grant. Death can release Satyavan from his grip. But that portion of Savitri, book 10 ends that he is released, now he is free. But the vidhan of vidhi, the law of creation, is not made by death. Death is one of the little bit manager in a certain sphere or domain of life. That's all. In a domain of life. So he has to do his job. Automatically, just because death has released doesn't mean this earthly life will become the life divine. So we see now this project initiated by Savitri is taken forward in book 11 and book 12. And this is what we are going to read today. Portions from book 11 and book 12. But first we'll read what happens to death. In the original story, we see that Yamaraj changes into Dharmaraj. The story doesn't say that he changed, but it is implied. These stories are like power-packed, knowledge-packed, small little Indian style of haiku. So they are packed with contents of consciousness. All these stories and legends which we see in the Mahabharata, the Ramayana, the Puranas, of course the Vedic stories, the Upanishadic tales. And it's very unfortunate that we either just accept it only as belief, not knowing what profound truth lies, or we discard it through the hyperuse or misuse of the analytical mind. It's very evident that these stories are not trying to prove a point on a material level, but that's a different subject altogether. So we have these two extreme reactions. One is, I believe it, though I don't understand it. This is good. At least it keeps something of that story going on inside. One day, there are people who have to preserve a profound truth in the memory of the race. So all these kathakars who have over a period of generations after generations, they have preserved the outer mold, which is very important. So we see these Veda Pathshalas where, children grow up in the Vedic lore. They know how to chant the Vedas. I have heard them. Amazing. But they don't understand the Vedas. Yet they serve a purpose. Especially in those days when there were no books. And even when there are books, they have learned the intonation, the right way, and they have preserved it. But the secret still remains a secret which needs to be decoded. To decode the secret, one needs to be a yogi, an aspirant, a seeker, because that's how the Vedas were given. So both things have their own place. So we see these stories preserved through generations after generations, a marvelous work which we find uniquely in India. And then when you probe them with a seeker's heart, then there is a new light. And suddenly you see, oh my God, this is so wonderful. And if you take the journey, then immediately the whole story of, for instance, Bhagavad, Krishna's birth in the jail and magically things happening, and then eventually Kansa's death, Mahabharata, or Ravana with the 10 heads and the conversion of the Asura back to the Bhakta, all this becomes so clear. But that's a vast subject. We'll come back to the Savitri story. So as I said, Yamaraj changes to Dharmaraj, and here Sri Aurobindo describes on page 678, book 11, the book of everlasting day, the soul's choice and the supreme consummation. Satyavan had made a very simple choice. Ma, I belong to you. Finished. That's the choice. But this choice cannot be imposed. You can't convert people to this belief. You can't tell people, oh, you better surrender to the Divine Mother. That's not surrender. That's something else. Surrender is something which cannot be forced. It is an act of love, an act of faith, an act of courage. So here we have these wonderful lines. One whom her soul had faced as death at night, a sum of all sweetness gathered into his limbs and blinded her heart to the beauty of the suns. Look what is hiding behind the mask of death. So here the change is, just like in the original story, Yama is the child of Surya. So now when you tear away the cover, why Yama is needed? We cannot suddenly look at this brightness of the law of truth. The mother at one place says, my child, all of you speak about truth. Do you know, if truth were to manifest, all of you will run away. We think truth is something outward. Truth is deep seated in the heart of human being, which only the divine is the privy to it. Suryo yatha sarvalokasya chakshu nalipyate chakshushay bahya dosha. He is not attached or affected by our outer doings. He knows what is going on in the heart of the seeker. So he says, if truth were to manifest, all of you will run away. So we have these lines that she suddenly sees behind the mask of death and night is sum of all sweetness gathered into his limbs and blinded her heart to the beauty of the sun. See, all these things are very practical. So every time we face in life death and night, we should tell the divine, why are you wearing this mask? Take off this mask. Show yourself to me in your resplendent form. And he will show. I know people on the moment of what is called as death, where all the relatives are frightened and say, why are you frightened? Mother and Sri Aurobindo have come. Why are you wanting to poke a needle here and an oxygen here? I see them. So this is a mask. This mask is necessary for those who are still laboring under the law of ignorance. But those who have given themselves to the divine, it's a different law. That is why we see Mother saying that Sri Aurobindo has said, henceforth anyone who dies here will come straight to Sri Aurobindo Dham, Sri Aurobindo's world, and not go into the world of death. So, Mother, the person on whom she saw the seal of Sri Aurobindo, she says this too, because the person had all kinds of, angry at the drop of a hat, all these things were there. And Sri Aurobindo said, yes, it is independent of all outer conditions or inner state. And then the Mother recounts this. What a tremendous power. Independent of everything. Doesn't matter what your nature is, what your outer thing is. This much is enough that he lived for the divine in whatever way, whatever little one could do. So she discovers transfigured was the formidable shape, his darkness and his sad destroying might, abolishing forever and disclosing the mystery of his high and violent deeds. His secret splendor rose, revealed to sight, where once the vast embodied void had stood. Night, the dim mask, had grown a wonderful face. So we see this coming at several places in Indian mythology, that darkness is a mask in several ways. For instance, in Ramayana, Ravan tries to do everything. But who is Ravan? Ravan is an angel who has fallen from the Lord's home. Actually, he was a servant of Lakshmi and Vishnu. And he forgot, because ego is such a thing that makes you forget. And he has to be restored. So he tries to frighten, but Sita knows. And so she just puts a blade of grass and says, dare not cross this. You and your Chandrahas will be burnt. We have this story in the marriage of Parvati. This is something Sri Aurobindo very beautifully, one of his poems based on Kumar Sambhav, the birth of the war god. So what really is Parvati's story? She wants to marry Shiva. So Shiva comes disguised as all kinds of people. Oh, why do you want to marry him? He doesn't have any bank balance. What joy he will give you? You are going to only suffer. After a while, Parvati says, dare you stay for a moment more. And with this tapogni, you will be burned to ashes. So then he comes as somebody else, then somebody else. Then at the end, when he sees, this is the mask that God assumes. In this story, it's Shiva becomes, throws doubt into her head. But at the end, when he is satisfied, then he reveals himself that, yes, I am the one whom you were seeking. So this is something so beautiful that, all these things that terrify us are simply a mask of the one who alone can liberate us. This is the paradox. So he appears, and then there is a very, very powerful description of the divine within. Now in the Upanishad, he is described as Chatushpad Brahman. Sri Aurobindo brings back that ancient, profound, mystic truth of the fourfold Brahman. And fourfold Brahman is that, of course, Brahman is that ultimate wisdom that comes not by thought, that one cannot arrive at by any outer means, by his own grace. Yamaveshe vranute tene labhyas tasyais atma vibranute tanuswam, the pragya, that mass of superconscient light. But Brahman is also all the intermediary worlds, Taijasa, Hiranyagarbha, in which some aspect or some seeds from the unmanifest are picked up, and Hiranyagarbha holds in his womb. And when they are ready, then Hiranyagarbha releases them into Virat, this outer manifest world. So this is how the process. So Pragya, Hiranyagarbha, and of course Virat. But who is standing behind it? All these three states is the one, supreme, the bliss self, the blissful child who plays at hide and seek in the world. So all this is his play. So Sri Aurobindo describes this fourfold being Of course, in the Puranic terminology, they become infinite existence or Brahma, infinite consciousness of Vishnu, infinite force or Shiva, and infinite delight or Krishna. But here we'll follow the terminology that Sri Aurobindo has used. He speaks of Virat on page 680, who lights his campfires in the suns, and the star entangled ether is his hold, expressed himself with matter for his speech. Objects are his letters, forces are his words, events are the crowded history of his life, and sea and land are the pages for his tale. So Virat is same Brahman, but he's writing. How he's writing? Material forms. Through them he is telling a story. Now it's up to us to get that story. That's how he writes a story where stars. It's so interesting when we look at, for instance, at the shape of the galaxy. You will see that it's made like a spiral. And if one really looks at it, one can understand a lot about life, the unfolding, the evolutionary. One can understand why Aurobindo mother drew it like a spiral galaxy. Everything has become so evident. Lot of knots about a life can open up just by gazing at, because that's matter's way. Sun at the center and all the planets moving around it. Not 9, but 12. 3 will be discovered because it is like that. Of course, they initially went more and more 9. They speak now, probably there is a 10th planet. It's bound to be discovered. So we see that sun is the center, symbol of supramental truth, which is everywhere in everything. Everything is by his blaze, even though it is there, yet it is everywhere. Everything has emerged from that one single mass of light, what was called as a nebula at one point of time. So again we see a beautiful symbol. We can understand the divine by looking at the solar system. And then the same replica we see in the atom. There is a center around which things are spinning around. So it's the same. So Virat is writing the same truth, but in his own unique way. And behind him is Hiranyagarbha, author of thoughts and dreams, who sees the invisible and hears the sounds that never visited a mortal ear, discoverer of unthought realities, truer to truth than all we have ever known. He is the leader on the inner roads, a seer, he has entered the forbidden realms. So behind Virat is Hiranyagarbha. He holds what is going to come. So a person who grows into the vision of the seer begins to know automatically what is going to happen. Simply because he begins to dwell in the Hiranyagarbha. He is open to that, all that is going on inside the Hiranyagarbha. What the story, he now knows not only the story which is being written, but the story that is yet not told. Supposing you see Mahabharata midway, and midway Mahabharata you read about Draupadi's Chirharan, somebody will say, oh, what kind of an author? I am not going to read further. So you go and ask Vyasa, sir, I have a heart, what are you writing? He'll say, wait, what is going to come next? Mahabharata. Oh my God, you have lost. But wait, he will say, at the end of all this, I am going to bring out the glory of Krishna in his wonderful form and the Gita. Do you have the patience to wait for that? So Sri Aurobindo says that this man is a transitional being. The story of the world is not yet finished. The story of creation is yet incomplete. Wait for the last act. This is what the mother would say. When people would ask, she would say, wait for the last act and the last scene. So this is the last act and the last scene. They are now revealing to us, and this is what is the future. Then behind it, a third spirit stood behind. Their hidden cause, a mass of superconscience, closed in light, creator of things in his all-knowing sleep. So this is the Pragya. And finally, I'll read this description, 682. All powers were woven in countless concords here. Now this beyond the threefold, this is the ultimate reality. who the fourfold, that last, the bliss self, the bliss that made the world in his body lived. We can say Krishna, infinite Krishna, who is the cause of all this, plays with all this. That's how Sri Aurobindo describes. All is his self-finding, self-play with himself. The bliss that made the world in his body lived. And of course, for us, we have a tangible form in Sri Aurobindo. Love and delight were the head of the sweet form. In the alluring meshes of their snare, recaptured, the proud, blissful members held. All joys outrunners of the panting heart and fugitive from life's outstripped desire. All that we were seeking, they were fugitive joys. You catch it and it vanishes. You think you got it? Wait. Krishna will smile. You say, "Ah, Krishna, so nice, you gave it to me." He will say, "Wait, you have it?" "Yes, it's in my mutti, my fist." "Open and see." You open and say, "There is nothing." You will find it there. Then you will run. After much panting, you will say, "Enough of all this." The wise will say, "I want you." The cynics say, "There is nothing like that in this world. It is all illusion." But this is Krishna's play. He takes us from one illusion to another, because that's how we become ready. Till we are ready for that utter bliss. And then his eyelashes are the snare. One who has had a glimpse can never ultimately be satisfied with anything less. This is the beauty of those eyes. And then see the description. Whatever vision has escaped the eye, whatever happiness comes in dream and trance, the nectar spilled by love with trembling hands, the joy the cup of nature cannot hold, had crowded to the beauty of his face, were waiting in the honey of his laugh. That's why when once Surdas was given eye by the mercy or grace of Radha, because he had fallen in the well and everybody was mocking at him, she gave him eyes. He's had the vision. And he says, "Ask whatever you want." He said, "Take away these eyes." Why? "Having seen you, I cannot see now anything else." Of course, Sri Aurobindo's devotees will say, "May I see now the world with these eyes which you have given me." It's a beautiful symbol. It's a story that after setting your eyes on the divine, nothing can really satisfy. This is so true. The ideas that find no voice on living lips, the soul's pregnant meeting with infinity, had come to birth in him and taken fire. The secret whisper of the flower and star revealed its meaning in his fathomless look. His lips curved eloquent like a rose of dawn. So we are having darshan. Just like we had the darshan of the Divine Mother in Book 3, Canto 2. His smile that played with the wonder of the mind and stayed in the heart when it had left his mouth. Only Sri Aurobindo can write like this. You look at his smile, you behold it, and then it stays in the heart. Sri Aurobindo writes in one of his poems, The Divine Worker, what is the strength with which he is facing? I face earth's happening with an equal soul. In all are heard thy feet. Tread destiny's pathway in my front. Life's whole tremendous theorem is thou complete. And at the end of this sonnet he says, no power can. Thy smile within my heart makes all my strength, indifferent to the time snake's crawling length. He says, in this rude combat with the soul of man, thy smile within my heart makes all my strength. So that it stays forever in the heart, and it continues. This is page 682, 683. Whenever one wants to have the darshan of the Lord, we don't have to wait for the darshan day now. See, in 1950, Savitri's first part came into existence. In 1951, when Aurobindo physically stepped back, he gave to us. He said, now I am giving you the darshan in the truest sense. You want to have darshan? Here I am. Of course, nobody can deny the divine in a physical body is a glory of glories. And yet, this is the best that we can have now. So page 686, 682, 683. And it closes with, as from the harp of some ecstatic god, there springs a harmony of lyric bliss, striving to leave no heavenly joy unsung. Such was the life in that embodied light. He seemed the wideness of a boundless sky. He seemed the passion of a sorrowless earth. He seemed the burning of a worldwide sun. Two looked upon each other, soul saw soul. So he satisfied Arjuna's request. Show me that milder version, this is too difficult for me. That time he manifested as Kalos me. So he had to show that form with death or time as the destroyer in the forefront. Though there is very beautiful description of that form. But Arjun's aspiration was there. So now Aurobindo is revealing that all beauty and bliss and sweetness and love and the charm that endures forever and lures us towards ultimately becoming one with him and keeps us tied to the play also. That's the beauty of Krishna. One would not leave the play because he is in it. So you want to say, I want moksha, he'll say, oh, is it? Something will come, something will happen. All the Vairagya and the Narasya will vanish until you say that this Kurukshetra is also nothing else but him. So she faces, and then he knows there is a beautiful little, Krishna's play. He says, you really want this, Savitri? I know you are Divine Mother's incarnation, but I will do one thing. Don't try to change the law of earth. You come, ascend, O soul, into thy blissful home. There you can find boundless Satyavan and boundless Savitri. Forever you can be together. So Savitri's reply on page 685. O besetter of man's soul with life and death, and the world's pleasure and pain, and day and night, tempting his heart with the far lure of heaven, testing his strength with the close touch of hell. Page 685 toward the end. I climb not to thy everlasting day, even as I have shunned thy eternal night. To me, who turn not from thy terrestrial way, give back the other self, my nature asks. And then look these powerful lines. Earth is the chosen place of mightiest souls. Earth is the heroic spirit's battlefield. The forge where the archmason shapes his works. Thy servitude on earth are greater, King, than all the glorious liberties of heaven. The last allurement is individual moksha. The mother calls it as a sattvic illusion. Because, why it is an illusion? Because this idea, still that I am a separate soul, is still there. This idea that here God is not there, it is suffering. God is out there, is still an illusion, but a last illusion. And only those who can conquer it are ready for this, truly in the real sense for this yoga, who don't want to escape and run away from earth. So he's doing double check. Are you really? You want this? Sure. So, and that's what he did when Arjun wanted to go and take moksha. He says, I'll give you moksha, fight the battle. Sir, are you sure? Gandhiji spoke of non-violence. Jain Muni told me to go and meditate. If I do hinsa, I will suffer. He says, Arjun, don't be confused with all these things. Just turn to me. Man mana bhav mad bhakta madhya jima namaskaru. Just turn to me. Behold me. Be full of me. Become my minded, my lover. Take refuge in me alone. Aham tva sarva papebhyo mokshishyami master. It's my responsibility. You will do everything. You don't want to rely on the divine. So he puts Arjuna on the battlefield. It's so symbolic. That's why many times I feel the adhikar to give Gita is by someone who has lived and faced the battle of life. You can't run away from that battle and speak of Gita. And the adhikar to receive the teaching in the true way is somebody who is ready to go through and face the battle of life. This is how we see. And then he says, where do I want to go? Too far thy heavens for me from suffering men. In me the spirit of immortal love stretches its arms out to embrace mankind. How can I have individual mukti and say other people are suffering? Too bad. Their karma. What kind of a spiritual selfishness could it be? He says, in me the spirit of immortal love stretches its arms to embrace mankind. Too far thy heavens for me from suffering men. Imperfect is the joy not shared by all. Oh, to spread forth, oh, to encircle seas. More heart still love in us has filled thy world. Oh, life, the life beneath the whirling stars. For victory in the tournament with death. This is the heroic soul that at one point of time India had nurtured. Before Mayavad came and everybody said, no, this is a field of sorrow, run away. This is the spirit of heroism. Tournament with death. This is worthy of the soul of man. Not easy things. Whence did we become seekers after easy things and even spiritual comfort? Comfort zones. This is what is in the true sense Arya. And who becomes Arihat. Arahat. The master who is ready to face the battle of life and either conquer nobly, conquer mightily, and lose nobly, but always belong to the divine fully and divinely. So, this is how she says that there are many battles to wage and I don't want that. And then of course she says that, well, I understand this is the highest of aspirations. See, this canto is the source choice in the supreme consummation. The supreme consummation is not nirvana. Supreme consummation is divine fulfillment of the divine will in man and upon earth, which is so logical. Why would earth be created if nirvana is the goal? That means divine did a big folly. Maybe, but at least hear him out. But the supreme consummation can only be that if he made creation, the creation must become one with the creator. That otherwise the whole thing becomes an absurd, senseless paradox. So that's why Sri Aurobindo has named it supreme consummation, which is the divine fulfillment of life individually and collectively, because there is nothing like individual fulfillment upon earth. And what happens then for an individual, that we'll come to that a little later. Let me not jump this stairs. So she says, or rather he says, only in an uplifting hour of stress, men answer to the touch of greater things, or raised by some strong hand to breathe heaven air, they slide back to the mud from which they climbed, in the mud of which they are made, whose law they know. They joy in safe return to a friendly base, and though something in them weeps for glory lost and greatness murdered, they accept their fall. To be the common man, they think the best. To live as others live is their delight. This is what the he says that average human pitch is still this. So Savitri, you are wanting to go back. There will be many battles to wage, and life is not going to be easy. Are you still keen on this? And so he once again gives a choice. O flame, withdraw into thy luminous self. And Savitri on page 692, in vain thou temptest with solitary bliss two spirits saved out of a suffering world. This is what has been achieved. Satyavan is freed from ignorance, therefore freedom from suffering. He is now a Jivan Mukt. He can come and go. He becomes the Ishwara Koti. He can enter, be inwardly free, do the work for which he has come and go back. So he says, not for this end. My soul and his indissolubly linked in the one task for which our lives were born, to raise the world to God in deathless light, to bring God down to the world on earth we came, to change the earthly life to life divine. I keep my will to save the world and man. That's why Mother said, people do not know what a sacrifice that Aurobindo made. And we may add the Mother. I keep my will to save the world and man. Even the charm of thy alluring voice, O blissful Godhead, cannot seize and snare. I sacrifice not earth to happier worlds. And then, of course, he says, okay, so be it, but even I cannot grant this. You have to go into that Supreme. Sachidanand, he shadows forth for the play, in which the fourfold Godhead are there. So only the Supreme can grant this. My work is done. My work is to lead the march of mankind forward, upward, but at the same time see that it doesn't leave the play prematurely, faces life. All this I have done. Now you want something which only the Supreme, who is beyond all form, name, everything, he can grant. Or that can grant. Or she can grant. Doesn't matter. Or gender neutral. It can grant. He doesn't care less. So Savitri goes there, and there she is again given a last lure on page 696 and 697. We have the four boons that the Divine Mother asks for earth and men. These are her ultimate gifts she gives us. On page 696, each time, now there is the voice. All the worlds, unmanifest, even in unmanifest, there are worlds which are higher worlds, which are superior worlds, worlds which never know pralaya, which never will dissolve, the world of the gods. All these she takes away, he takes away. And she is left with that ultimate, supreme reality. Choose, spirit, thy supreme choice not given again. For now from my highest being looks at thee. Accept, O music, weariness of thy notes, O stream, wide breaking of thy channel banks. So he says, one last choice. Still you can enter and be done with life and birth and death and rebirth. And see what marvelous lines are here. And if ever there ever is a tribute to the woman as Shakti anyone has ever given, we see in these lines that Aurobindo writes. How does he write? The moments fell into eternity, but someone yearned within a bosom unknown, and silently the woman's heart replied. She is the eternal feminine, the Divine Mother, the woman, the original. And she replies, because she only knows. See, even on earth, the same story is replicated. Men like to sit on the sofa and talk about Ukraine war and Iran's nuclear policies, while women cook in the kitchen. They are worried about the guest who is going to come. They always connect earth with heaven. This is the nature. Men like to discuss high things Men are from whatever realm God knows. Idea. But the women bind them to earth, ground them. This is the role of women. But without making him lose those heights. That's the important part. She must join the two. So in all the ashramas we see in ancient ashram, Rishi Vasisht, who organized life there? It was Arundhati, who organized the life of, in the ashram of Rishi Atri, Anusuya. All of them, they organized. It's not something new. In August Rishi's ashram, it is Lopamudra. She was given the charge of looking, because she has to take care of that. And here we see Sri Aurobindo and the Divine Mother. We know Sri Aurobindo, but unless Sri Aurobindo had put forward the Divine Mother, as she says, looking at the Samadhi, I do not want to be worshipped. Let them worship you to your heart's content. I want to serve thee. And men are so foolish, they will circulate this as a quote and say, the Divine Mother does not want to be worshipped. This is our stupidity. As if we are in that state. Understand what she is saying. It is her aspiration. We should have that aspiration. We don't want to be worshipped. It is Mother and Sri Aurobindo. But I saw one circulated because people don't want to, they are afraid of worshipping, surrender. Is weak people. So people who go to Samadhi and bow down, who are these sentimental fools? They have said we don't want to be worshipped. This is how human beings distort a profound truth and take away from its beauty. So the woman's heart replied, Thy peace, O Lord, a boon within to keep, amid the roar and ruin of wild time, for the magnificent soul of man on earth, thy calm, O Lord, that bears thy hands of joy. I want your peace for man on earth amid the roar and ruin of time. Not the peace that comes by withdrawing into a cave. That peace man has had. In the battlefield, I want that peace. And once again the voice asks her, unweave the stars and into silence pass. Page 697, immeasurably the woman's nature spoke, Thy oneness, Lord, in many approaching hearts, my sweet infinity of thy numberless souls. She says, no, I don't want to unweave the stars and pass into the silence. I want your oneness and infinity for unlimited souls. Whoever is seeking, whoever has turned, thus shall it be and thus will it be. Once again, the voice into its majesty of sleep, withdrawn above the dreadful whirlings of the world. So now it is power. These four aspects of the divine, which is peace and infinity, then power and then bliss. So all of them come to tempt her, these four aspects of the divine. This is not temptation, but a last choice, because temptation, post-graduation is over. So once again, a sob of things was answered to the voice, and passionately the woman's heart replied, Thy energy, Lord, to seize on woman and man. Yes, I want your power. But to seize on woman and man, to take all things and creatures in their grief and gather them into a mother's arms. And the last time she hears the cry, I open the wide eye of solitude to uncover the voiceless rapture of my bliss. Now, bliss is so difficult to resist. That's the last. She says, you can come and live forever in my bliss. Come to the eternal Vrindavan, where we will be ever engaged in Ras and Maharas. Come, Savitri, with Satyavan. Would you come? But look at Savitri. A music beat of winged uniting souls. Then all the women yearningly replied, Thy embrace. See, the divine embrace gives the bliss. So say, I want it, but for what? thy embrace which rends the living knot of pain, thy joy, O Lord, in which all creatures breathe, thy magic flowing waters of deep love, thy sweetness give to me for earth and men. All this for earth and men. So she has asked, and then what follows is, of course, beautiful future. She has asked it for earth and men, and now more and more souls who are open to her, she will start giving them. There is nothing like a shortcut route because she has asked. It is given to her now. So people often ask that, can I turn to Mother in whatever way? Yes, of course, the Divine Mother in her universal transcendental aspects exist. And she can protect, she does everything. But if you want this transformation of earthly life into the life divine, then it is through her. Why? Because somebody has to hold this. She has the adhikar, the mandate to give it to those who, like Satyavan, will say one day, descend, O happiness, with thy moon gold feet. So, there is, this boon is in two parts. One where he speaks of something which will unfold in process of time. I'll just read bits and parts on 698. O beautiful body of the incarnate word, thy thoughts are mine. I have spoken with thy voice. My will is thine. What thou hast chosen, I choose. All thou hast asked, I give to earth and men. All shall be written out in destiny's book by my trustee of thought and plan and act, the executor of my will, eternal time. So now things will unfold in a process of time. It's a new age which has begun. But time has to work out. He's the manager. He's given a new plan. So poor fellow now he has to suddenly new plans. So things have to break. Things have to be rebuilt. He has to bring new materials. All that is supplied to him. Big job. So now time has to obey the new rhythm. But then for those who have chosen this, what happens to them? So this is the first part of the boon. But since thou hast refused my nameless calm, and in my uncompanioned lone eternity, so you have chosen to accept the battle. So therefore, she says, what will happen to all such who so choose, this what we see, Sri Aurobindo describes in the Synthesis of Yoga, that such beings will become the divine center of the new creation in humanity. That's what he says, the last, the new possibility that is going to emerge. And what that means, thy heart shall drive thee on the wheel of works, thy mind shall urge thee through the flames of thought to meet me in the abyss and on the heights. Then they have no escape. They can't say, I want to give me a nice place in Mount Everest. Not Mount Everest is too difficult. Okay, some nice little retreat where I can live nicely with my family and friends, saparivar. No. In heights as well as in abyss. Now, those who seek it have to take that work to feel me in the tempest and the calm, and love me in the noble and the vile, in beautiful things and terrible desire. The pains of hell shall be to thee my kiss. The flowers of heaven persuade thee with my touch. My fiercest masks shall my attractions bring. Thou shalt be helplessly attracted to all. Thou shalt not shrink from any brother soul. This will be the state. Because those who have sought it, they can't now escape that wonderful snare. But of course, what a glory to forever in lives after lives to come again and again and fulfill that work for which creation has been made. And this continues. This is the first part of the boon, and here we also have on page 702, 703, he reveals the secret of O Satyavan, O luminous Savitri. I sent you forth of old beneath the stars, a dual power of God in an ignorant world, and reveals the truth of Satyavan and Savitri. And then what is going to come, it will be in steps and stages on page 704. A few shall glimpse the miraculous origin, and some shall feel in you the secret force, and they shall turn to meet a nameless tread, adventurers into a mightier day, ascending out of the limiting breaths of mind. They shall discover the world's huge design and step into the truth, the right, the vast. Satyam Ritam Vratam. You shall reveal to them the hidden eternities. And then it goes on. Some shall be made the glory's receptacles and vehicles of the eternal's luminous power. These are the high forerunners, the heads of time, the great deliverers of earthbound mind, the high transfigurers of human clay, the firstborn of a new supernal race. And then he speaks of the Superman shall wake in mortal man. So this is step by step, first a few, then some who will glimpse, then the birth of Superman, and then page 706, all then shall change, a magic order come, overtopping this mechanical universe. A mightier race shall inhabit the mortal's world. The Superman shall reign as king of life, make earth almost the mate and peer of heaven. And then on page 708, see, Aurobindo and the mother, they have made the path and the future foolproof. And this is something which others have also voiced, Nolida has voiced this, and which is the most logical thing. They knew what is going to come. And they knew the challenges. They knew all the difficulties. When somebody asked the mother about Third World War, she said, you must know that now that the supermind is working, all that will happen will only hasten the supramental manifestation. We shouldn't worry about it. They have made the path so foolproof that on page 708 we see, even should a hostile force cling to its reign and claim its rights perpetual sovereignty, and man refuse his high spiritual fate, yet shall the secret truth in things prevail. Even if man refuses, even if hostile forces cling, still now this will happen. Out of man, the Superman and the supramental being will arise. What they have done, they alone know. But here is the prophecy. Of course, all the forces of creation they knew it long back, even before the mother's coming, when Aurobindo was had come to Pondicherry. We know how a tantric yogi, he says to Dilip Kumar Roy, this is of course 1928 now, after mother has come, but he's talking of Aurobindo. You have come to me for initiation. He who is sitting on the mountain of all the siddhis, he has initiated you and you have come to me. And Dilip Kumar Roy says, but sir, he told me that, my seeking is still mental and all this. He says, yes, but he is already initiated. But he doesn't tell Dilip Kumar Roy. He said, how do you know? He said, he came and told me. So all that has been already done. And then the higher kind shall lean to lift up man. And it goes on that even the multitude shall hear the voice. Mere men into spiritual beings grow. Page 710. More and more souls shall enter into light. Minds lit, inspired, the occult summoners here. And then comes the whole transformation process. Minds lit, inspired, the occult summoner here. And lives blaze with a sudden inner flame. and hearts grow enamored of divine delight, and human wills tuned to the divine will. These separate selves, the spirit's oneness feel. So, this sense of other, me, mine, all this ego will go away. You can't react on that basis because automatically the deeper oneness will take care. These senses of heavenly sense grow capable. The whole transformation is described. The flesh and nerves of a strange ethereal joy and mortal bodies of immortality. Who then will turn towards those toy stuff? Because when flesh and nerve begin to feel that joy, then anything which gives mere pleasure will feel like a great letdown. And he'll make you go through little bit of touch here and then you say, oh my God. Then finally it is this alone, and it will wash away all bondage to pleasure, all bondage towards inferior stuff. A divine force shall flow through tissue and cell and take the charge of breath and speech and act. And all the thoughts shall be a glow of suns, and every feeling a celestial thrill. Often a lustrous inner dawn shall come, lighting the chambers of the slumbering mind. A sudden bliss shall run through every limb, and nature with a mightier presence fill. Thus shall the earth open to divinity, and common natures feel the wide uplift. Illumine common acts with the Spirit's ray, and meet the deity in common things. Nature shall live to manifest secret God. So every field of activity, from the most common and seemingly trivial and mundane to the highest, all this will begin to manifest the divine possibility in it. And man will become a bridge to manifest through all these fields of activity. The spirit shall take up the human play, no more the human mind and ego. This earthly life become the life divine. So this is a thing of the future, but a future that has begun unfolding. This is what we must understand. This is not a nebulous future. It's not a maybe, may not be. It is a future that not only will be, but has begun its action. And it's up to us to open more and more and be either the forerunners or the backbenchers. Whether to go happily, singing on the way, or to go grumblingly, complainingly, grudgingly. Nevertheless, she has taken us into that supramental boat whose destination is the supramental transformation. And as she has said, it's a collective realization. It's not like suddenly one day one supramental specimen. That age is gone. It is a group life which is going to change. It will be in several places. And just to one few lines before we close, Book 12 is the return to earth. So what will be the work of such beings? So Savitri tells Satyavan, you have been released from ignorance. Now this is the project, earthly life to life divine. Don't now start singing that other tune, it has been done for you. So what will he do? Now here comes the beautiful thing. Now what is the work left for Satyavan? So page 720. Let us go back, for eve is in the skies. Now grief is dead and serene bliss remains, the heart of all our days forevermore. Let us give joy to all, for joy is ours. Inexhaustible joy, inexhaustible love, inexhaustible wisdom, infinite in fact, inexhaustible peace. Now share it. Don't say, me and mine. I am a special privileged class. No such elitism. Now is the time to work and serve in the true way. So let us give joy to all, for joy is ours. For not for ourselves alone our spirits came, out of the veil of the unmanifest, out of the deep, immense, unknowable, upon the ignorant breast of dubious earth, into the ways of laboring, seeking men. So now, be among men. Just be as ordinary, seemingly ordinary. That's what Sri Aurobindo says. In this yoga, you have to accept it because you have to work with every kind of humanity. Don't try to once again create a distance. Babaji somewhere sitting with garland. No. You have to walk. That's what all these great ones have taught to us. You have to walk as a common man upon earth and yet carry this something special which automatically will be shared with all. Two fires that burn towards that parent sun, two rays that travel to the original light. And now she gives that beautiful 4-line which becomes the agenda of those who have been blessed by her love and taken into her. To lead man's soul towards truth and God we are born. But mind you, Satyavan alone cannot do it. Satyavan and Savitri. She needs those human instruments who become souls because she is not in ignorance. She has come from there as grace. But human souls which have come out of ignorance and together, it's like we hear in the Gita the last phrase, wherever there is Krishna, wherever there is Arjuna, Yatra Sri Krishna, Yatra Partha Dhanurdhara, there is victory. So the combination of Nar Narayan. So here it is, Nar or Nari, call it whatever, and Narayani. The human soul and the Divine Mother. Wherever they come together, this is the job description, handout given job description. To lead man's soul towards truth and God we are born. To draw the checkered scheme of mortal life into some semblance of the immortal's plan. To manifest the divine will upon earth. To shape it closer to an image of God in every area of life. A little nearer to the idea divine. This is the job description, and all this will be fulfilled over a period of time. Sri Aurobindo and the mother spoke about it 200 years, 300 years. I have a feeling the way it is going, it's still shorter. For this Superman is already there. And then the supramental being, Sri Aurobindo spoke about 1,000 years. And then the bodily transmutation. My feeling it is going at a much greater speed. This is my own impression. But it doesn't matter. What are 1,000 years in a life of billions of years of planet Earth? Man himself has walked this earth for at least 1 lakh years. This man, Homo sapiens erectus, and if you take the 9 subspecies, intermediate species which he leaves behind, then a few lakhs, at least 1.5 million, that is 15 lakh years, man has walked. 15 million years probably, but 15 lakh years I would say, from the point that animal life began to part into the human. And then humanity as we understand today, then 1 lakh years, and today we sit and at least are capable of, worthy of reading Savitri. What 1,000 years? But the blinking of an eyelid. And which will go happily and joyously because the Divine Mother is with us. And when she is with us, then nothing is impossible. Each easy miracle of felicity, of her transmuting heart, the alchemy is. Ma.